So hi everyone and welcome to your RingCentral live reports training. My name's Nicole, I'm a training specialist here with RingCentral and I'll be taking you through your live reports here today. So before we get going, let's take a look at the agenda that we have planned. So we're going to kick off by talking about an introduction to live reports. We're going to talk about how you can access those live reports. We'll talk about setting some expectations just to make sure we're all on the same page with those reports. We're then going to talk about how we can generate reports. We'll dive into dashboard activity. And then towards the end, I'm going to do a little bit of a quiz. And we're going to talk about reading a report at a basic level. And then, of course, before we part ways, I'll show you where you can find those additional resources if ever you need them. So first of all, before we get going, I do have a couple of questions. First of all, why live reports? Are there any metrics that you're looking to track? Are you maybe using it to monitor and track a specific call group? Is it perhaps to evaluate performance or take a look at those call avoidance behaviors? Why live reports?
Hi, sorry, I was a bit late into the call. Is
No
there a
problem
question
at
for
all,
us?
Mark.
Is it? Sorry.
Yep. So this is a question for you all. Why live reports? What is it you're looking to track? All right, looking at the agents available and calls waiting in the queue. Awesome, perfect. Any other reasons at all? Okay. All right, perfect. So it sounds like it's mainly just those sort of call behaviors then, so we can see what's incoming into the platform and then obviously take a look at what our agents are doing with those calls there as well. All right, number of calls exceeding waiting times is another. Awesome. Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll be able to cover all of that. So that's brilliant. So we'll look at all of that and more, just to make sure that we do have, a complete overview of everything that's going on. We'll also do this on your system as well, so then it's familiar with your day-to-day usage. All right, brilliant. So now we have an idea as to what we want to get out of our training today. Let's talk about an introduction to our live reports. So we're going to kick off with an overview. So your live reports is going to provide you real-time reporting for your call queues. And that data is going to be available for up to 24 hours, meaning it's live when it comes in and it stays within those live reports for up to 24 hours. And that'll be from that exact moment. So if we were to take a look at it now, it would be from right now that those metrics or those that data would be available. Within the reports, you also have over 30 different metrics available. You're going to be building out your live reports by creating and managing your dashboards. So with your dashboards, you can have private dashboards that are only visible to yourselves, but then you can also have public dashboards that are visible to anyone that has access into live reports, whether it be view only or whether they have complete access where they can create their own dashboards. So this does tend to be quite nice if we have agents that are working from home, for example, and we want them to be able to see what's coming into the platform. Well, it's quite handy, perhaps for some of those agents or maybe even their supervisors, to give them view-only access. They'd then be able to view those metrics and see what's incoming, but they wouldn't be able to change any of the data that they see on the screen. And that will make a little bit more sense when we build out our dashboard. You could also show the data for queue and agent level visibility, meaning you can look at your queues and your agents within the live reports. And you can also display it on a dashboard, or you can also display the dashboard on a large screen. So we spoke about a moment ago, if we're working from home, we may want those agents to see what's incoming. We could give them view-only access. But then on the flip side, if we're all back in the office and we want everyone to see what's going on with those call queues, we could have our dashboard up on a large screen. So for example, in our RingCentral office, we have a screen up on the wall for our support team, and they can then see exactly what's incoming by just looking at that dashboard. To access your live reports, you are going to need either a super admin role, which would give you full access into the platform. So you're a super admin, you'd have access into everything. Or alternatively, we need to create a custom role. And in that instance, if you wanted to view only access, meaning you can't create those dashboards, but you can view them, you'd want live reports view only. And then if you wanted to also be able to access them, manage them, and create your own dashboards, you'll want to have full access. So view only, it's simple. We can only view what's on the screen. We can't make any edits. Full access, we have access to make those edits and create our own dashboards. So to access our sort of reporting tool, our live reports, you have several different options. You can head to the RingCentral service web. So for you guys, it would obviously be that Avaya service web. And then you'll log in. You can also log in using the mobile app there too. And what you'll do is you'll select the reports drop down and choose analytics. So you'll just hit reports, analytics, and then those live reports should show up. So let me show you what that would look like for you all. Let me just bring it across. Give me just one moment. Here we are, perfect. So you'll head into your service web, so service.cloudoffice.avaya.com. You'll log in with your details. Under reports, you'll hit analytics. This then second tab will open up, and the live reports is this one just here. So hopefully everyone on today's call already has access into those live reports. But if you don't, definitely let us know and we'll be able to grant you that access there. Are there any questions at all so far? How's everyone doing? Are we all following along okay?
Yeah, it's fine so far, thank you.
Yeah, perfect. All right, brilliant. Sounds like we're all doing well for now. So now that we know where we can access those live reports, let's talk about setting some expectations with the reports. And then we are going to get into the fun stuff and build some dashboards here together. So to set some expectations, just to let you know, of course, we spoke about this a moment ago, but the data retention is 24 hours starting from right now. So from that moment we see the data come in, it's retained for 24 hours from that moment. The queue details and agent details can be exported. So you'll notice when we head into the dashboard, there are certain reports or certain widgets, I should say, that we can export the data from, and then others that we can't. We could just grab a screenshot of it if we ever we needed to. If you make any updates to anyone's account, meaning if you maybe change their surname or their first name, don't panic if you head straight into the live reports and you don't notice that change reflecting right away. That's just because it'll reflect within those 4 hours. So it can take up to 4 hours just for those updates to then reflect. When it comes to your data updates, the updates are going to display as your events occur. So of course, it's live reports. We're going to see that live data as the data comes into the system. If you were to cross-reference reports, you may notice that the live reports may not completely match your performance reports. Now, the reason for this is your performance reports is sort of an overview as to what's going on, whereas your live reports is that really granular data. When it comes to your voicemail, it's only going to show you if a call has reached a voicemail greeting. It won't let us know if that particular caller left a voicemail. So we'll know, of course, that they headed to the voicemail, but we won't know whether they left a voicemail greeting. And if ever we were to delete a queue, perhaps we're deleting a queue, maybe that team, or we no longer need that team, they are going to be visible within the live reports for 24 hours. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk about generating reports. So when it comes to generating our reports, we are going to bring up the platform. Here we are. And we're going to talk about building our dashboards. So first of all, when we head into our analytics toggle, we'll want to head to this one right here, which is our live reports. And then let's get familiar with what we can see on the screen before we start building out those dashboards with those different widgets. So here at the moment, if I were to carry on adding my widgets, I'd be creating a new dashboard. But I could also filter between different dashboards. This padlock means that the dashboard is private to me, so it's only visible to myself. If I wanted to filter between my dashboards and everyone's dashboards, I can use these two different toggles here. I could choose to delete a dashboard, of course. I could duplicate it. So maybe I'm going to be supervising or looking at the data for multiple teams. And I've created one dashboard and I just want to create a second one. I want to have that same information, but for a different team. We can duplicate. And then we can also add a dashboard to create a new dashboard by hitting that plus toggle there. The auto refresh data, if this turns on, it means that the data is going to come in the whole time, so as it's live. But if ever we notice on the screen that we think there may be something wrong, we want to dive a little deeper into it, we can turn off the auto refresh data, and that then stops the live data from coming in, and it'll basically freeze what we have on our screen here. We can also expand. So we can expand our report. And then if we wanted it to be a wallboard, we'd hit wallboard, and then it's just going to show up as a full screen there. And we just hit escape to get out of that full screen. All right. Before we start creating that dashboard, are there any questions? Are we all okay? All right, sounds like we're all doing well for now. Okie dokie, cool, perfect. So let's carry on moving forward. Remember, any questions, chime in and let me know. Honestly, I am very used to being interrupted, so anything that springs to your mind, just unmute yourselves or pop that in the chat there. So let's create a new dashboard. Rather than going off this one, let's create one that's specifically here for our training. So we're going to hit the plus add dashboard. We'll name this one here training. We then have two different options. Would we like the dashboard to be private, meaning that it's only visible to myself? Or would we rather it be public, meaning that anyone that has access into those live reports would be able to see this dashboard? So here for now, let's keep it private. So we'll make sure that it's visible only to me. And we're going to hit save. We can then see we're looking at our training dashboard. But if we needed to hop back over to any others, we can just select from the drop down here. But let's go ahead and let's add a widget. So we're going to press plus add widget. And we're going to start off by talking about the service level widget. So this widget is going to measure the percentage of our incoming calls that an agent answers during our desired time threshold. So basically it's our service level agreement widget here. So let's go ahead and hit the toggle. We're going to name this service level, so we'll leave it as it is. But if ever we wanted to, we would be able to update the name. So if we were looking at multiple queues, on one dashboard, we can come in here and update that information. We're then going to select a queue. So James, do you know at all of any queues that may be in use at the moment that we could get some data from here?
I don't think there will be any real meaningful data in the system yet.
Okay. All right. Are there any that are in use at all or not?
No, we haven't really
No.
gone live yet. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. In that case, let's just pick any of them because it won't make that much difference. Here we are. So we're going to be looking at the account manager queue. We'll then choose the date range. So obviously we want to look today, but we could look the last 30 minutes, the last hour, the last number of hours, or a custom date range, which would of course allow us to go back 24 hours. We're then going to add in our service level. So here at the moment, we're saying our target is of 80% within a threshold of 20 seconds. We could change this. We could say, actually, our target's going to be 60% within a threshold of 30 seconds. We could then choose, would we like to exclude or include our abandoned calls? So we'll exclude these for now, and we'll hit save. So we can see here at the moment, we have no calls. But let me show you a visual as to what it would look like if we did have multiple calls coming in here. So we can see, we'd be able to see the current service level percentage. We then have a visual of that service level agreement. We can see the number of calls that our service level is based on, that target and the threshold. And then we also have a visual marker, so we know that if this line here went all the way up to that visual marker, it would change as green, and it would mean that we've met our target. If we go ahead and we add,
Yeah, what is the target then? What's it saying 80% of?
So in this example, it would have been 80% of our incoming calls were answered within 20 seconds.
Right, I get you. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, no problem. All right, so let me bring up this screen here again. And we'll go ahead and we'll add another widget. This time we are going to talk about our call volume. So within our call volume, we'll be able to see the volume of our inbound calls, including those calls that may have gone to voicemail and those calls that may have been abandoned. On the flip side, we're also able to see our volume of outbound calls there too, when it comes to our call volume. But here for now, we'll focus on those incoming calls, and then we'll talk about the outbound. So we'll select call volume. Again, we could update the name here if we wanted to. We're then going to choose our type. So here at the moment, we've just got inbound, so we can see the total, abandoned, and then voicemail redirects. We could see the number of answered, abandoned, voicemail redirects, just those total calls. And then we also have our outbound options here. So for now, we'll keep it as total, abandoned, and voicemail redirects. We can then choose, would we like to exclude or include those internal calls? And then we'll select our queues. So we'll keep it as the queue here, just to make sure that everything is sort of consistent the whole way through. But with this particular widget, we could select multiple call queues if we wanted to. And then we'll hit done. We then have our time period. So again, we could see the last 30 minutes, the last hour, last number of hours today, or that custom date range. And then we'll go ahead and hit save. So again, we'd be able to see our total inbound calls, the number of calls that may have been abandoned, and then the number of voicemail redirects. Now, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, can anyone explain to me or tell me what they think abandoned calls are? Does anyone have any ideas?
Well, I'm assuming it must be the number of calls which were hung up by the caller before an agent answered.
You got it. Absolutely. Exactly. So it means, yep, those calls were hung up by the caller. Perhaps they got fed up of waiting, for example, and our agents weren't able to answer. Absolutely. You got it. All right. So let's add another call volume widget. But in this instance, we're going to be talking about those outbound calls. So your agents are able to place outbound calls on behalf of the queue if they were to set their caller ID to that of the queue within their user profile. So if we hit call volume, again, we could update that title if we wanted to. We could call it call volume outbound. And then under the type, we're just going to choose outbound, answered and unanswered, or select that queue there again, hit done, and then save. And then again, we'd be able to see our outbound answered calls and our outbound unanswered calls. If we add another widget here, we then have our agents count. So this is going to tell us the number of agents that are available, the number that are talking, so that are on an active call, and then the number of unavailable agents. So you may be wondering, well, when does an agent actually become unavailable? So it could simply mean that they're logged out, so they're not logged into the platform. It could mean that they're on Do Not Disturb, but then it could also mean that they're on a call through to their personal line or through to their sort of direct line. And in that instance, they'll also show as unavailable. So if we hit our agents count here, again, we could update the name if we wanted to, and then we'll select the queue. So in this situation, we can only select one queue. So we'll keep it as the account manager here, and we'll hit save. So there we can see, right, we have one agent that's available, none are ringing, none are talking, and then none are unavailable. But this chart here will change as that live data comes in, as we have agents ringing, agents talking, and then if ever they're unavailable because maybe they are offline or on Do Not Disturb or on a personal call, that too will show in here. If we go ahead and add another widget, let's take a look at our agent details here now. So the agent details, we're going to be able to choose what columns we would like to see. So again, we could update that name. We've then got the widget size. So for now, we'll leave it as the default, but we could make edits to that size there if we wanted to. We're then going to select our queues. So let's choose that account manager one there too. But with this queue, we could, or with this widget, we could select multiple queues. We'll hit done. And we're then going to filter our columns. So what data would we like to get out of this particular widget? We could choose the extension number. Maybe we want to know whether this particular agent is available, talking, or unavailable. Perhaps we want to know the number of inbound calls that were dispatched to our agent, how many of those they answered. If we have overflow queues, it can be nice to know whether that overflow call was answered by a particular agent within the queue. We could take a look at how many were redirected to voicemail, those outbound calls and outbound answered and unanswered. We could take a look at their total talk time. Maybe we want to see just that inbound talk time. And then perhaps it's also important for us to know the average hold time per agent there. And then once we're happy, we'll hit done. If we have multiple queues that we're filtering by in this section here, it can also be nice to filter our inbound calls by those selected queues. We can choose to include or exclude those internal calls. We have that same time period there. And then we can choose our view mode. Would we like it to be expanded or collapsed? So let's say expanded here. We can then choose to hide our agents that aren't accepting calls, or hide agents within those selected queues that may not be accepting those calls. And we'll hit save. We can then see here at the moment, looks like Sarah there is available. She's had no inbound calls, none of them have answered, so she then obviously doesn't have an inbound talk time or an average hold time. But if we were to have data in here, we would be able to see the number of inbound calls, how many of those she'd answered, that average hold time and that talk time there. And we can really customize these based on our different queues as well. It would also, of course, tell us whether she was available or unavailable. So if she was unavailable, this green tick would just change to a red X there. Are there any questions so far? How's everyone doing?
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask, I don't know if, because unfortunately I was a little bit late in the meeting. When you're saying live data, how often is that polled?
Yeah, so it is pulled literally the whole time. It's live. As that data comes in, it's going to show up in here. Okay, so it's literally live data. So if someone was on a call here right now, we would see it in the report.
It's in real time then?
Yeah, so it's real time. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Harris, I don't appear to have access to the reporting tool in Avaya Cloud. Who can I ask to get access? So James, I don't know whether you would be able to grant Harris access to the tool at all, or who we can point him in the direction of.
I can coordinate that.
Yeah.
I'm quite happy to.
Awesome. Brilliant. So Harris, if you reach out to James, he'll be able to help you out with that one.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem at all. Okay. All right, so let's carry on moving forward. And by moving forward, we're going to, of course, add another widget. And then with this particular widget here, let's go ahead and let's add a queue monitor. So this is going to give us the length of our queue, that longest wait time, and our agents that are available per queue. So again, we'll just hit that toggle. We could update the name, and then we'll choose the queue. Again, we'll keep with the accounts management one at the top here, and we'll hit save. So now we'd be able to see our calls that are waiting to go through to that account management queue. We'd be able to see those agents that are available, those agents lines that are ringing, that are talking, and then those agents within that queue that are unavailable there. So remember, as that data comes in, we'd be able to see it flash up on the screen here. If we add another widget, we can then see the queue calls. So we'd be able to see the number of calls within that queue, those live calls, so they're ongoing at the moment and on hold. So again, we'll select queue calls. We can select multiple queues in this situation, but for now, we'll select one. We'll hit done and we'll save. So again, we'd be able to see those calls that are queued, that are with agents, and that are on hold. If we add another widget here, we then also have our queue details. So this is going to show us our queues here, so we can update the name again, that widget size. We can select multiple queues, and then we're going to choose the columns that interest us for this particular queue. Would we like to see the calls waiting, those calls that are currently being answered at that moment in time? Maybe we want to know those calls that have been redirected through to voicemail. Perhaps it's also important for us to know the longest wait time there. We can hit done and we can save. And then we can see for that account management queue, they have none waiting, none live talking, none were redirected to voicemail. And then that longest wait time, of course, is 0 because we don't have any real data in here at the moment. Are there any questions to do with your widgets or the live reports so far? How are we all doing?
Yeah, I just wondered if it's, if you have set thresholds and stuff, can you set color coding for certain queues, or to highlight certain ones which need to be monitored more closely? Is there any of that?
Yeah, so you can't highlight sort of different queues, but you can change where they are within the dashboard. So if you wanted to monitor something sort of in a bit more detail and you wanted to have it at the top of the screen, you can sort of drag and drop your widgets and pop it at the top to then monitor it in more detail. But there's no sort of color coding. It would just be those sort of queues or widgets that are important would go at the top, and then those that are probably least important at the bottom.
Oh,
so you
enough.
can rearrange it in that sort of way.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay, no problem at all. So yeah, we can literally just drag and drop those widgets and put the most important at the top and then the least important at the bottom. Within the three little dots just here, we can also update the settings. So let's say, right, yep, we were focusing on that account manager's queue, but we also want to add in the one in Malta there as well. We hit done and we save, and then we can see those updates right away. We can duplicate, so we could duplicate this exact widget with the exact threshold, so in this instance, columns that we put in. We can delete it, and we can export. Let's imagine that, of course, we were focusing on the account manager's queue just here, but we wanted all of this exact same data for a different queue. And we didn't want to have to come in here and create those widgets one by one, because all of the thresholds and all of the columns that we've chosen, well, we want the exact same for a different team, a different queue. What we can do is we can actually duplicate our dashboard by hitting that duplicate toggle. This one, let's call it training 2. Again, we'll keep it private, so it's visible only to me. And we'll hit save. And we have a brand new dashboard. All we'd need to do is come in here, update the settings, make sure that it was then relevant for that new queue. So let's say data analytics. We'll hit save. And we come and make these edits for each. Where am I going? There we go. We'd come and make these edits for each of our reports here. Where have you gone? There we go. We'll press done and we'll hit save. And then we'll notice that each of those reports will update for that queue once we update those settings. And then we have training and training 2, and we can pivot between the two, knowing that all of that data and information that we have is exactly the same, just we're focusing on a different queue. Before we talk about reading a report at a basic level, and we do a little bit of a quiz here, how's everyone doing? Are we all okay? Are there any questions at all to do with those live reports or any of the dashboards that you can build? How are we doing?
Oh yeah, it's fine, yeah.
Yeah, everyone's following along okay? All right, perfect. Okay, so let's carry on moving forward. And by moving forward, we're now going to talk about reading a report at a basic level. So when we talk about reading a report at a basic level, I'm just going to bring up sort of some screenshots of different reports that we've generated previously, and then I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then feel free to answer either in the chat or out loud, whatever works best for you. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look. So here we are, we're going to take a look at reading our reports at a basic level. So when it comes to this particular report here, how many calls are, or how many agents are unavailable within our queue live report here? So how many of those agents are unavailable?
Pretty much most of them. Get rid of them. Fire them. What's the matter with them?
I know, and God knows what they're actually doing. But yeah, absolutely perfect. So there are 6. And then out of this particular team, who is sort of holding up the team? Who's the agent that's available whilst everyone else is unavailable? Do you have any ideas?
The delightfully named Essence.
Yeah, Essence, absolutely. Essence. And if I wanted to add in a new widget here, what would I do?
I can't keep answering all these. Somebody else answer. Come on.
Let me open up the chat and see if anyone no. All right. Okay. 1 second. It's like my screen share's gone a bit fuzzy. Let me play this back here. All right. Awesome. Okay. So does anyone have any ideas if I were to add in a new widget? How would I do that?
Click add widget.
Yeah, click add widget. Absolutely. Perfect. All right. And then with this particular report here, how many abandoned calls do I have or have I had? How many abandoned calls? Any ideas?
4.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it. There's 4 abandoned calls. And how many inbound calls have I had? How many inbound calls?
31.
31.
Yeah, absolutely. 31. There we go. Perfect. And which live report am I viewing here? So which dashboard are we currently viewing?
Billing.
Yeah, you got it. We're taking a look at the billing dashboard.
Here's
Absolutely.
a question. Can you make that larger? I
Yeah.
know I'm talking about for me, but that wording billing, so it really pops out. Is it possible to make that larger?
This what within the actual
Yeah.
report or
Yeah.
so within the actual report, no, you can't. It's just sort of that's just sort of the size of it. There's no way of updating that. It's just sort of a default in that particular scenario. I can take that feedback back though and see if there's any way that we could make it bigger on your account. But yeah, the default is just sort of this sort of size.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, thank you.
All right. Perfect. Okay. And then if I wanted to post this particular view onto a wall board, so to create a wall board, does anyone have any ideas what I would do? And remember, a wall board is just where it's the full screen. Any ideas?
Yeah, you can click on expand and then it gives you the option to do wallboard then, doesn't it?
You got it. Exactly. Well done, Richard.
Yeah, I know. I just want all the gold stars from me. I'm sorry.
Yep. Awesome. All right. And then with our report here, what is the longest wait time? What's the longest wait time? Any ideas? Perhaps someone other than Richard?
8 seconds.
Yep, you got it. Absolutely. So it's 8 seconds. That's the longest wait time here at the moment. And then how many calls do we have with an agent? So how many callers are talking to an agent?
Just the one.
Yep, you got it. There's 1. Absolutely. And then who within this dashboard here, who is holding up the team? So who's taking the most calls?
Shanta.
Yeah, absolutely. Shanta is. All right. And then with our dashboard here, how many agents are unavailable? How many of our agents are unavailable?
2.
Yeah, 2. Absolutely. And can anyone remember what unavailable means?
They can't take incoming calls.
Yeah, so yeah, it can mean that either they're logged, that they are logged off. Yep, you got it. That they're on a personal call through to their own direct line, so someone's just dialed straight through to their direct line, or that they're just not there, they're not logged in and not ready to take those calls for that call queue. And then how many answered inbound calls do we have here? How many
44.
answered? Yeah, absolutely. We've got 44. Perfect. All right. Okay, and then with this dashboard here, how many of our calls were abandoned? How many of our calls were abandoned?
2.
2.
Yeah, absolutely. And could anyone remember what abandoned means?
It means the call wasn't answered by an agent.
Yep, so it means that the caller basically dropped off that call, so they ended the call before the agent was able to answer. So they were on the line, they were waiting, and then they ended that call before the agent was able to answer. Okay. All right. And then with
Stefano,
this,
can I just ask
sorry,
something?
Richard.
With the abandoned calls,
Yeah.
we've set things up so that after a couple of minutes or so, the call will go to voicemail. Will that
Okay.
show as an abandoned call?
Great question. So that will depend on how your call queues are set up, whether they're rotating, simultaneous, or sequential. Do you have any ideas?
Yeah, rotating in this case.
They're rotating. Yeah. Okay. So in that case, yes, it won't show. It wouldn't show as abandoned calls. It would show that they'd been sort of redirected through to voicemail.
Yes,
Okay. One thing to just watch out for is if you choose to have your call queue sequential, you will have a whole load of abandoned calls. And that's not necessarily because the call was actually abandoned before the agent was able to answer. It would just mean that it's gone through to that next agent. So it's considered abandoned for the first one. Okay, so I'd always recommend making sure that your queues are either rotating or sequential, and then you'll always have the correct data when it comes to the abandoned and voicemail redirects. Okay. All right. And then with our last report that we can see here, how many agents are available? Any ideas on how many agents are
7.
available? Yeah, you got it. There are 7. How many are unavailable?
4.
Yep. And then how many are talking?
3.
3. Absolutely. You got it. All right. Well done, everyone. That was great. That's perfect. It means that all of that knowledge has been retained, which is brilliant. But before we take a look at where we can find some additional support and guidance if ever we need it, are there any questions at all about anything to do with your live reports, whether it be creating the dashboards? Are there any questions at all?
Yeah, is there a limit to the number of dashboards you can create for yourself and share, or is it unlimited?
So it is unlimited. You can create sort of as many dashboards as you want. Just remember, if you're going to share them, they have to be public. So you can't share them only with one person. You either share them with everyone that has access to live reports, or you keep it private for yourself.
And then also, how many widgets per report dashboard? Is there a limit there, or?
So you can have 30.
Right.
Yeah, 30 different widgets.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right, well, it sounds like we're all good to take a look at where we can find some additional support and guidance. So when you are within your online account, and it's going to make me sign in again. Give me 1 second. Let me just log back in. Then I'll be able to show you where we can get that additional support and guidance. All right, here we are. So when you are within your online account, if you select your initials up top in the right-hand corner, you'll then have a toggle that will say support. And that's then going to open up for you guys the Avaya customer care. You can ask any questions in here, and then you'll have a forum that will show as well. But you could also head to the RingCentral support site. So let me bring that up as well, just because the RingCentral support site actually has different videos as well that I'd recommend watching. So you'll head to support.ringcentral.com. I'll copy this and just pop it in the chat here, just so everyone has that as well. I definitely recommend bookmarking this. You'll then head into MVP. And then from MVP, you will want to take a look at analytics. And then within analytics, you'll select live reports. You can then take a look at the dashboards, those different widgets that are available. And then there's also an overview. So again, I'll pop this direct link here in the chat there as well. But that does bring us to the end of our training here for today. So thank you all ever so much for your time. The last thing that I am just going to do, I'm just going to pop a quick training survey in the chat. So I'd love to get some feedback. I'd love to know how you feel today's training went. So I'll pop that link there in the chat as well. It looks just like this, the survey, and it really would take literally probably less than 10 seconds to fill out. So any feedback you have would be gratefully appreciated. But thank you all ever so much for your time. Remember that today's training was recorded as well, and it will be available for you. James is going to be uploading it into your True Hub. But thanks everyone for your time. Remember, I'll be on the line, so if there are any other questions, feel free to chime in and let me know. But I hope you all have a brilliant Monday, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Cheers.
everyone. Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.